Welcome, everyone. Ready to uncover the story of Bastet.
Oh, absolutely. Always up for exploring ancient Egypt.
Our listener is curious about her too, and honestly, she's a fascinating figure, not just your typical cat-loving goddess.
That's what makes it so interesting, right?
We've got some great material here to dive into.
Yeah, should give us a good understanding of her.
Get ready, this is going to be good.
What we usually think of with Bastet, it's really just part of her story. The beginning is much wilder.
So, not so much the cat naps for the early Bastet.
No, not quite. Think more like warrior goddess, fierce and powerful.
Okay, fierce, powerful.
And connected to the sun, we see her like this going way back, like Second Dynasty.
Wow, that's,
We're talking around 2890 BCE.
okay, so Linus warrior goddess, pretty impressive resume.
Yeah.
How's she transform into that cat goddess we usually see?
And that's a really cool evolution and tells us a lot about how Egyptians saw their deities.
Oh,
It
interesting.
wasn't like a sudden switch, more like a gradual shift. She kept her strength, her protective side, but took on this more nurturing aspect too. Picture her as a woman with a cat's head, holding symbols like the ankh.
The Ankh for life, right?
Exactly. And the sistrum,
I'm not familiar.
a musical instrument used in ritual.
Ah, so less of a personality makeover and more like adding new skills.
You got it.
Yeah.
And this duality is even clearer when we look at her connection to Sekhmet.
Sekhmet, another lioness goddess.
That's right.
She had a reputation for being pretty powerful, didn't she?
Absolutely. Represented the scorching power of the sun, often associated with war and
Oh, wow.
destruction. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bastet and Sekhmet, two sides of the same deity.
Like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. You need the sun's power to grow, but you also need shade to rest.
Makes sense.
It's all about balance. That's what they embody.
That balance makes me think about her name, Bastet. Does it give us any clues about this complex nature of hers?
Well, the meaning of the name is still debated, but some think it means she of the ointment jar. And ointment in ancient Egypt, it wasn't just for beauty.
Oh, interesting.
It had medicinal and protective powers.
So there's a connection to healing and protection.
Wow, exactly. Which links back to both her warrior side and her nurturing side.
So from warrior to nurturer, but always protecting.
Mhm.
Wait, there's another possible meaning, right? Something about alabaster.
Right. Some scholars think there's a link between her name and alabaster, the material they use for her statues.
Wow.
Beautiful statues. It's a captivating detail, adds another layer. She's a powerful protector, a gentle nurturer, and potentially a figure associated with beauty and artistry.
That's a pretty powerful combination.
It tells you a lot about the complexity of their beliefs.
It sounds like Bastet wasn't just about looking elegant. She had some serious responsibilities too, right? What kind of roles did she play in their mythology?
Oh, many roles. She was seen as the protector of Lower Egypt and the pharaoh himself, a divine figure,
Wow.
and her connection to Ra, the sun god. That meant she was tasked with protecting his order on Earth. Speaking of Ra, she was his defender against Apep, a serpent.
Apep, that rings a bell.
Every night she battled him as he tried to swallow the sun.
So every night, battling a giant serpent? Talk about dedication.
Shows how vital she was to the Egyptian.
I can imagine.
Oh, and let's not forget her as a goddess of pregnancy and childbirth.
Oh, yes, that makes sense.
Likely comes from the fact that cats are so, prolific.
They definitely are. The Egyptians were keen observers of the natural world. Not surprising they'd make that connection.
Right. They saw the lioness's strength, but also those nurturing qualities of a cat mother. It was all reflected in Bastet.
With all those roles, I imagine Bastet was a pretty popular goddess. Did she have a special place? A city, maybe, devoted to her?
She did. Her main cult center was Bubastis in the Nile Delta,
Oh, wow.
known as Per Bastet,
Meaning,
House of Bastet. It was this bustling hub completely devoted to her.
getting a whole city named after you, that's how you know you've moved it? What was it like?
Well, we have these descriptions from Herodotus, the Greek historian.
Oh, yeah.
He visited Bubastis in the 5th century BCE. He talks about this magnificent temple surrounded by water
Beautiful.
and a grove of tall trees.
Sounds like a pretty serene place.
Imagine a peaceful oasis dedicated to the cat goddess. Carved stone walls, a grand shrine for Bastet's statue, and a paved road leading to the entrance, all lined with these towering trees.
Sounds breathtaking.
Yeah.
But what about the cats themselves? They were revered in ancient Egypt, right? How does that connect to Bastet's story?
That reverence for cats is totally intertwined with her worship. She embodied their qualities.
Right.
Cats were protectors, kept homes safe from pests and snakes, which, as you know, were a real danger back then.
Not just a few mice. These cats were dealing with serious threats.
Exactly, and their skills, they earned them a special place. We even know some royal cats wore gold,
Hold on. Gold-wearing cats.
and they dined with their owners.
Wow, now that's a serious cat person.
It does sound a bit extravagant, but it really shows how much cats were a part of their lives.
And this went beyond just, living cats, right? Weren't cats mummified?
Yes, and not just any mummification. They were given the same care and rituals as humans.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes they were even buried with their owners. Imagine the bond.
Kind of touching and a little spooky all at once. Speaking of going all out, were there any big celebrations for Bastet?
Oh, absolutely. Bubastis had this huge annual festival. It drew crowds of up to 700,000 people from all over Egypt.
Wow. That is a lot of people. What was it like?
Picture this. People arriving by boat, the city packed. Music, dancing, sacrifices, and,
Oh,
according to Herodotus, a lot of wine.
a giant party for Bastet. Sounds fun. But why all the wine? Was she known for enjoying a good vintage?
Not necessarily Bastet herself, but Egyptians believed lioness goddesses like her were appeased by feasts of drunkenness.
Ah, so it was more of a ritual.
Exactly. They thought that by indulging and making those offerings, they'd honor Bastet and ensure her protection and blessings.
It sounds like quite the spectacle.
It really was a testament to how popular she was. Central role in their culture. It was social, a time to gather, celebrate, reaffirm their connection to Bastet.
It's incredible how much Bastet's story has revealed already. From a fierce lioness to a nurturing cat goddess, her journey is full of surprises.
It really is, and that reverence for cats woven into her worship, it gives us such a unique glimpse into their lives.
It really does make you think, how did this shift from lioness to cat reflect what was happening in Egyptian society? Was it moving towards domesticity, celebrating fertility, or something else entirely? That's something for our listeners to think about.
It's a great question, one that scholars are still exploring, but Bastet's impact, that's undeniable. Her story really shows how mythology can capture our imaginations and inspire us to learn more.
There's definitely more to uncover. We've just scratched the surface.
We have her many roles, her connection to other deities, the mystery of her name. Every detail opens a new path.
This has been fascinating. I'm ready to uncover even more about Bastet.
Yeah.
What else can we learn about this captivating cat goddess?
It's not just the grand temples and the festivals, it's the personal stuff, the ways people connected with Bastet that are really fascinating.
What do you mean? How did they, bring her into their daily lives?
Yeah, like that. Think about it. Amulets, figurines of Bastet, super popular.
Okay.
People wore them for protection
Right.
in their homes,
Makes sense.
even buried with loved ones.
Wow. So like a little pocket-sized protector.
Yeah,
Little Bastet to watch over them?
exactly. Tangible reminders of her presence, offering comfort, protection, a connection to the divine. And it's amazing how it still resonates. People still wear cat jewelry, have cat statues,
Yeah.
find comfort in their cats.
Makes you wonder if it's more than just liking cats.
Right.
It's like we're tapping into something ancient.
Yeah, that connection the Egyptians had. It speaks to the enduring appeal of cats, doesn't it? That grace, mystery, independence. And maybe it reflects those basic human needs, safety, companionship, something bigger than ourselves.
Thinking about these personal connections, I'm curious about women in her worship. Was it a big thing?
Great question. Bastet was associated with a lot of feminine qualities: grace, beauty, fertility, motherhood.
Okay. Yeah.
And evidence suggests that women were very prominent in her cult.
So it wasn't just a male-dominated thing.
No, not at all. Women served as priestesses in her temples, performing rituals, offering prayers, guiding worshipers.
The way it makes you rethink women's roles, in ancient society. It was more complex than we imagined.
Bastet's worship, it wasn't all ceremonies and rituals. It was those everyday things, personal links, and women were active participants. It gives us a much richer picture.
So look beyond the surface, get the full story.
And Bastet's story reminds us that history isn't just kings and battles. It's everyday people, their beliefs, struggles, triumphs.
Right, connecting with the past.
Yeah.
Seeing it through their eyes. It's interesting, even though their world was so different, there are these threads, common experiences that connect us, across cultures and time.
We share those basic needs, those fears.
Right.
It makes it so compelling.
Learning about Bastet has shown me how rich Egyptian religion was.
Hmm.
It wasn't just worshiping, it was connecting with those deities personally.
Finding meaning.
Yeah, finding meaning, seeking guidance in their lives.
And Bastet, with her strength and gentleness, her many roles, that connection to the cat. Such a captivating entry point.
Couldn't agree more. She really captures your imagination.
She does.
So, for you listening, here are some things to ponder. How did Bastet's worship change over time? What were those rituals and practices? And how did her image and what she symbolized evolve?
Great questions. And here's another one. What role did Bastet play in the lives of everyday people? How did they connect with her? What did she represent to them?
The ancient Egyptians left us this giant puzzle, and we're still trying to put the pieces together.
And every new discovery, every new way of looking at things, we get a better understanding, not just of their world, but ours too.
Before we wrap up with Bastet, what's the one thing you really hope our listener will take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that Bastet's story, like all these old myths, it has so many sides to it.
Okay.
It's open to interpretation. There's not one right answer to who she was, what she meant. It's about exploring those different aspects, those contrasting parts of her and finding your own meaning in it.
It's about being okay with the mystery, with what we don't know, and realizing how powerful these ancient stories still are. And hey, maybe you, listening, will discover something new about Bastet yourself.
That's the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
It never really ends.
The exploration continues.
Always more to find, a new perspective, another piece of the puzzle.
So keep those questions coming, keep exploring, keep an eye out for Bastet, out in the world today.
You never know where you'll find her.